You know that thing where people are like, I didn't have this on my 2025 bingo card? Yeah, that is dead-ass stupid, homie.
I just got out of the gym and all I can think about is elites eating mermaids. Aliens in the ocean, which are actually demons, and mermaids are actually sirens. And the fact that there was a congressional hearing about these aliens in the ocean. And then learning that it's illegal to communicate with dolphins. And that dolphin-assisted births are also illegal. And that allegedly dolphins are like pervs, you know? But dolphin-assisted births apparently gifted like really special children from what I'm reading. Like highly intuitive, really smart. And this is like all I was thinking about when I was on the elliptical. Like I had music playing and this is just like going around in my mind. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I have to get off TikTok, but like I need to know more about this. And now I'm waiting for my husband to get out of the supermarket looking stuff up about sirens and mermaid stories. And yeah, this is where I'm at right now.
So not only are mermaids real, but the wealthy are serving them as the main dish at their parties. I just got an email from someone that's been to one of those parties, allegedly. I'm still sick, so just deal with it. This entire email came about from the viral video that's going around right now about the guy that had just gotten out of prison and he was needing to make some money. So he joined up with like this fisherman crew to go out and catch exotic fish for a ton of money. He thought it was just going to be big, rare fish. Turns out, no, it was mermaids. Apparently, they go out, catch these mermaids, sell them to the wealthy, and then the wealthy serve them at dinner parties. Allegedly. I open my email and I get this email from the guy asking if I'd seen that video on my For You page because he wanted to keep his story private, but he figured since it was on everyone's For You page, he might as well tell it. That he had been living out in LA for a while. He'd made quite a few connections, that he'd been running around with the elite for about 6 or 7 months when he got this invitation in the mail. It was this ivory cardstock folded up. It had like this wax seal on it, but it didn't have a stamp. It was like hand delivered. And when he opened it, it was like, congratulations, you've been invited to this elite gathering, blah, 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 like all this fancy stuff. And he said it kind of read like that it was maybe going to have some kind of delicacy there that only super duper wealthy people could afford. So he was pretty excited to go. And when he got to the house, he said that he was stopped at the door. He had to sign an NDA. He had to leave his phone there, which he said was like typical for Hollywood parties. So he wasn't really thrown by that. He was ushered in, led to the dining room, and he said it was like this really long table, and on the other side of the table was just a wall of windows facing the ocean. There were about 25 people in there. He said there were some really like high noted, well-known people there, like a movie star. He said that she was really popular at the time. He said there was like this one executive, a producer, there was some government something there, but there were only like 25 people there. The amount of people that were there and then the quality of people, he said it really made him like second guess like why he was there, because they were all really out of his league. They all sat down, they all had like this small covered dish in front of them, but then there was this massive silver tray covered with it had 4 handles on it. He said he couldn't figure out like what in the hell could have been it. He's just like, okay, shark or something, like what could it have been? He said it was about 5 feet long. The host stands, says, I would like to thank everyone for coming today. Lucky to experience such a delicacy, and this is a rarity that very few get to experience, like really like laying it on thick. Then 4 servers step forward, they all grab a handle and lift it up, and he said there's an audible gasp. Then, in detail, he goes on to describe what we would know as a mermaid. He described in pretty like graphic detail, but I'm not going to because I don't want the video to get taken down. So he's just looking at it like, what the hell? The entire time he's thinking, okay, this is something that they have like made to look like a mermaid. There's no way this is an actual mermaid. But then the servers step forward to prepare it, and that's when he realized that it actually was a mermaid. He said as each piece was presented to the people around the table, he could smell this woodsy floral scent. He said it was a smell he'd never smelled before. Everyone there seemed very excited to try it, and he could tell that some of them had already had it before. Like this wasn't their first time attending one of these parties. He's watching in horror as all the people are like eating this and acting like it's the best thing they've ever had in their life. He said out loud, "This is some kind of joke, right?" The host says, once you try a bite, you'll believe that it's real. He couldn't make himself do it. He pushed away from the table. He said out loud, you guys are nuts. This is insane. If this is what this really is, like, I don't want any part of it. Everyone at the table just kind of laughs at him. So he leaves. He's walking through the house trying to find his way out. And he ends up back around the kitchen and he hears this bubbling sound. He said it resembled like what you would hear in an aquarium or something. So he could see that this one door was like slightly ajar. He pushed it open and there were tanks all in the room full of mermaids. Some of them were very aware that they were there, and then some kind of looked incoherent. He's standing there staring at them when the host walks up behind him and says, oh, you found the pantry. He turns around and says, what is this? This is insane. This can't be actual mermaids, is it? Is it something that you're just like trying to make look like mermaids or something? The host tells him, do you really think that I would have a mermaid party and not serve actual mermaids? He was in shock. He just stared at the guy like, I can't believe this is happening. And then he tells him that he was going to leave, that he didn't want any part of this. And he said, well, remember, you did sign an NDA and it wouldn't matter anyway because no one will ever believe you. So what do we think? Do we believe him? Let me know in the comments.
Book of Enoch says mermaids are cursed fallen angels. Modern theories claim their DNA holds regenerative powers. Billionaires eat their flesh to steal it. Here's the science behind this madness. Why is mermaid DNA called divine? Book of Enoch says mermaids are hybrids of humans and fallen angels. They're cursed with immortality, but also regenerative traits. Divine DNA lets them regrow limbs like salamanders, except much faster, much more accelerated. Salamanders use genes like EYA2, just like Sonic the Hedgehog. This is what regrows and regenerates limbs. Mermaid flesh accounts allege that they have similar genes, but supercharged like a celestial upgrade to nature's code. Mermaid meat allegedly floods humans with retinoic acid, the substance that's found in embryos and stem cells. What triggers epigenetic rewiring, giving the billionaires incredible youth, strength. Consumption activates dormant pathways in the human system, allowing them to tap into the junk DNA. The divine euphoria that they all talk about is possibly linked to BMP7 proteins for tissue regrowth, but also can cause euphoria. They directly interact with human neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine. Labs allegedly want to extract mermaid stem cells to market. Allegedly, at these eyes wide shut rituals, diners experience rapid wound healing and psychedelic visions. This is fascinating. There is a mermaid syndrome where human babies are born with it, this gene mutation, and it's lethal. What timeline are we in that this could be true?
Rich people eating mermaids took me down a rabbit hole that I wish I wouldn't have went down, but since I learned this information, I feel like I should share it with you too. And the second thing I'm going to talk about is called DIY family stew. So if that kind of weirds you out, I probably wouldn't watch this video. Around the Middle Ages to about the 1700s, if you got sick, you'd go out and buy some mummy and eat it. Matter of fact, they ate so many of them that they were running out of mummies, and they would go and off people, mummify them, and then sell those to people, because there was a thing called bitumen. It was a black tar-like substance, and they thought it had healing properties. Well, these mummies were covered in a black tar-like substance, so they was like, close enough, let's eat it. King Charles II had his own little fancy one. It was called the King's Drops, where you would take skulls specifically, crush them up into a fine powder, mix them with alcohol, and take a couple drops a day. Because a couple drops of skull a day keeps the doctor away, says King Charles II. Second thing we're going to talk about is literal DIY family stew. And this is so good. So whenever your parents were sick and you really was worried about them, to make them better, you would simply cut off a piece of your flesh, boil it, and serve it to them. And they would consume this and just magically heal. At least that's what a lot of people believed, and a lot of people did this. That was the whole ordeal. Your parents got sick, you just really cared about them, and you would cut off a piece of your thigh and boil it for them. They would consume it, and ta-da, they got better. They would eat their kids. Anyways, I had to learn it. Now you know it. So I hope you have a great day with that information.
Can we talk about mermaids and sirens for a second? Because I'm sure by now you've seen that viral video. And about a month ago, I posted a story about a fisherman who had emailed me, who told me he was basically having this like relationship in his head and was thinking about cheating on his wife with this like siren he supposedly saw in the water off the coast of Massachusetts. I've been getting a lot of like comments like, do you have any updates about this? Do you have any other mermaid stories now that all this stuff about the elite eating mermaids has come to light? I do. Also, this is my backup account. I made this because I don't want to post it on my main page because it's more of a commentary than it is like a story. So if you're seeing this and you've seen my face on your For You page elsewhere, thank you for listening. But anyway, I have another story. This girl emailed me back in December. Okay. She said that she was dating this really, really rich guy. Well, he wasn't rich, but his family was. And when she would go to certain celebrations, like at his family's properties, they would eat sometimes endangered animals. I know that's a really touchy subject, but one thing she mentioned was like pangolin. But then she also said that it was jokingly suggested that they were eating mermaids or like sirens at another event. And this was never confirmed. I have the full story if you guys want to hear it. But I was really hesitant to post it on my main page just because I didn't want to I don't ever want to seem like a clout chaser.
Hey, tell you about the time I saw a mermaid, dog. Like real shit. I'm gonna say March of 2016. Me and my wife, we decided to go jet skiing. While the kids was in school, have us a little date. And so we get to Clearwater, Florida. We rent a jet ski. We ride about 20 to 30 miles offshore. So we out there. We out there. It's nothing around us. No land. Our tour guide is in front of us. I'm hauling ass, going back in, and as I look to my right, I see a school of dolphins. Probably about 10 dolphins, school of them. So, every time I see dolphins, I get excited. I love dolphins. But I look and I see the dolphins, and then amongst the dolphins, I see something different. I could tell the difference between a dolphin and something else. I know what dolphins look like. And in the school of dolphins, I saw something come up. That something had hair, and it had a fucking tail that looks like, almost like a fish tail mixed with a manatee tail. If you could picture what I'm trying to say. And the tail was like a pearl blue. Like, it was weird, bro. Like, hold on, I don't know if I could turn this around, but on the edge of this pool right here, on the edge of that pool right there, the darkest blue that you see, that was the color of the tail. And the tail came up and it flapped like that. And it came up amongst the dolphins. And I was like, bro, what the fuck was that? I know I ain't just see what I thought I saw. And remember, we miles and miles away from the shore. Ain't no damn human gonna be swimming out there with no damn fake ass mermaid tail. And this the thing, this how I knew it was real. Because I sat there for at least 5 minutes waiting for it to come back up. And the motherfucker never came back up. Can't no human stay underwater that long. I ain't see no scuba tank or none shit on the thing back. I saw it come up. It had all kind of shit. And I stopped, and the tour guide came back, and I told my wife, I said, babe, I think I just saw a fucking mermaid. And the tour guide stopped and came back, and he was like, what's going on? I was like, bro, you ain't gonna believe me, but I think I just saw a fucking mermaid swimming with the dolphin. And he was like, I believe you. He said, I done saw some crazy shit out here before too. And that day, bro, like, changed my life, because it was like some type of magical, spiritual shit. Like, it decided to show itself to me and nobody else. And it was so life-changing for me, I even drew a picture of it and wrote it down. I don't know what happened to it, but I drew a picture of what I saw, color and everything. And that day was crazy for me, bro. I ain't never seen no shit like that. And I've seen a lot of shit in my lifetime, but I ain't never seen a mermaid, so that was the first for me. And that was the day I saw a mermaid, dog. Shit real, man, they real.
This is crazy. I heard it. I heard it. I hear it. Oh my God. That's crazy. That's nuts. That's crazy.
Layla.
What if I told you people are secretly eating mermaids and this isn't a myth? There are real stories of mermaid eating parties happening to this day. Here's the terrifying truth. Yo, for centuries, sailors and islanders have spoken about catching mermaids, but unlike the fairy tale versions, these creatures weren't beautiful. They were dangerous. Some say they weren't even fully human, but that didn't stop people from eating them. One of the earliest records comes from a 17th century Dutch explorer. He claimed his crew captured a mermaid off the coast of Indonesia. They cooked and ate it, but within days, every man on that ship was unalived. Their bodies found covered in strange bite marks as if something had crawled out of the ocean to take revenge. But that's just the beginning, because mermaid eating parties still happen today. In certain remote fishing villages, there are whispers of a secret ritual where if a mermaid-like creature is caught, it must be eaten to appease the sea. One traveler claimed he was invited to a feast where the meat was unlike anything he had ever tasted. Days later, he asked what it was. The host just smiled and said, "You've eaten something that shouldn't exist." That night, he woke up gasping for air like he was drowning in his own bed. The scariest part, there are actual reports from fishermen claiming they've seen mermaid-like corpses washed up on shore, missing chunks of flesh. But if people are really eating mermaids, what happens when they eat back? What do you think, though? Are mermaids even real? And are people actually...
So their language is so complex that it actually can encompass describing movements to each other.
They taught dolphins 2 gestures. And the first gesture was do something you've never done before. Innovate. And what's crazy is that the dolphins can understand that very abstract topic. They'll remember everything they've done before. And then they'll understand the concept of negation, not one of those things. And then they will invent some new thing they've never done before. So that's already cool enough, but then they'll say to 2 dolphins, they'll teach them the gestures, do something together. And they'll say to the 2 dolphins, do something you've never done before, together. And they go down and exchange sonic information, and they come up, and they do the same new trick that they have never done before at the same time.
I'm sure you know dolphins communicate using sonar, but a cross-section of that sonar is a cymatic pattern, like this. That's their letters, that's how they write. Now what I'm about to show you is gonna blow your fucking mind. This is the cymatic pattern of a dolphin communicating with its trainer. This is a frozen cross-section of that. Now, if we enhance that and remove the noise around it, we can see a picture of the man in front of the dolphin communicating with the dolphin. Now, not only that, this is a frozen cross-section of how they communicate with each other. The next one is a whale's frozen cross-section of their cymatic pattern. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is a crop circle found in England. And not only is this cool because it's a crop circle, but the inside of the crop circle looks pretty similar to a cymatic pattern. Pretty wild.
John Lilly, who was the guy who actually invented the isolation tank, he was a pioneer in interspecies communication. He took like extreme liberties with his scientific research. Took a lot of acid, gave acid to dolphins, did a lot of dolphin research in a flotation tank, did a lot of really, really wacky shit. But he believed that one day dolphins were going to have a seat in the United Nations. He believed we were going to be able to communicate with dolphins and that dolphins were going to be recognized as water people. He thought they were going to be he thought they were as smart as human beings. That's amazing. And that if we could figure out how to communicate with them, they would have the same rights as human beings.
The CIA once wanted to use dolphins to sink enemy ships, a project called Oxygas that started in around 1965. Clandestine operations revolved around dolphins through Project Oxygas to see whether or not dolphins would be able to do things, for instance, such as retrieval and emplacement for certain objects. Documents show that the agency kicked off Oxygas using at least 2 captured wild dolphins. The program envisioned training the dolphins to quietly infiltrate enemy bays and harbors, attaching explosive devices to the hulls of enemy ships, and then slipping back to a waiting boat. So the CIA documents never mention specific kinds of explosive devices, but the agency probably planned on using conventional devices like the limpet mines human divers relied on during World War II. It's also within the realm of possibility that the CIA had nuclear weapons in mind. Nukes had grown smaller and lighter in the 19 years since the 10,000-pound Fat Man bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Although the nukes were still too big for dolphins to reasonably carry, the rapid pace of miniaturization suggested it was only a matter of time. In one document from February 1965, the CIA reported that 2 dolphins are now routinely delivering simulated, and then they redacted the rest.
This is off topic, but what do the dolphins know? I'd like to remind you that the government told us that the aliens are living in the ocean, and they also told us it's illegal to try and interact with a wild dolphin. And I mean interact in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Don't try and talk to it. Don't try and elicit a response from it. Don't feed it. Don't touch it. Don't nothing. Don't even look at that bitch. Now, they say this is to protect dolphins and humans alike, and I'll buy that because they're wild animals, okay? But why can't I even try to speak to it? Why can't I even just try to elicit out of it? I don't know how dolphins sound. The fuck, they don't understand me and I don't understand them, right? Right? It is a felony to even attempt this behavior. There's even a snitch line for it. Dolphins are too smart. They are self-aware. They have shown signs of empathy because they'll help out other creatures, including human beings. They can communicate amongst themselves in a language that we don't understand at all. It's the clicks and the, you know what I'm saying, those high-pitched noises. Some of them our ears can't even pick up on. They are the second smartest creature on Earth behind us. Do they have a conscience? They live in an environment that we haven't explored 80% of. We don't know 80% of what's down there in that ocean, but you know who does? Dolphins. And we are not allowed to talk to them. I'd like to know why that's a felony.
It's extremely illegal to communicate with dolphins, and the reason why is going to shock you. So in the United States, it's illegal federally to communicate with dolphins. And if you're wondering why, it's because of this, the Marine Mammal Protection Act. This act does not allow you to communicate with dolphins. It specifically stated that you cannot communicate with dolphins. Which is really weird considering dolphins are really smart animals who even recognize their own reflection as seen here. This dolphin is conscious enough to recognize himself in a mirror. And this isn't the only test. There's multiple tests that confirm this. Dolphins are extremely smart animals that not only communicate with each other, but they're able to communicate possibly to even humans. Matter of fact, if you ask Google's AI, they do admit that humans and dolphins can have communications, even including the use of technology. In early Christianity, there's even symbols related to the dolphin. Dolphins have symbolism in Christianity. And dolphins have also been seen passing around blowfish, pufferfish, to get a neurotoxic effect in their brains. I think dolphins are just proof of a higher creator, a grand architect that placed all these beautiful animals in the world for us to take care of. What do you guys think?
Immediately found that this was a doorway This was not an isolation tank. That's a cover story. It is really a doorway into the universe. It allows one to escape one's body, one's soul can leave, and one can clean one's karma from one's soul and become pure spirit.
Long flotation sessions would gradually give way to waking dreams and hallucinations. Lilly began to think of them as conferences, where he would meet with 3 entities he would come to know as the Earth Coincidence Control Office, or ECHO for short. Although terrifying at first, over his years in sensory deprivation, Lilly understood ECHO as a localized branch of a much larger cosmic institution. They were his guides responsible for orchestrating what Lilly called the long-term coincidences of his life, fatefully steering him in specific directions.
But it means to me the Earth Coincidence Control Office, one of God's field offices. And ECHO runs our lives, so we won't admit it.
During the first ECHO conference in 1958, that the entities convinced Lilly to abandon the results-oriented constraints of government-funded research, divorce his spouse, and throw himself headlong into his dolphin studies. The United States Intelligence Service wished for him to continue his neural mapping research. They were equally interested in his experiments in sensory deprivation and to what extent it might make a subject more suggestible to outside influence. But Lilly was on the cusp of discovering non-human intelligence, and he would see it through, even if it meant doing so on his own. Although Lilly entertained the idea that ECHO was merely a manifestation of what he unconsciously wanted for himself, and that nothing supernatural was occurring in the isolation tank, the results were the same. Lilly filed for divorce, sold much of his property, and purchased land on St. Thomas Island. During his initial years on St. Thomas, using an underwater microphone called a hydrophone, Dr. Lilly attempted to catalog the various whistles, clicks, and screeches the creatures emitted to gather evidence for the presence of Delphinese. Lilly found they had a vocal emitter on either side of their nose, and were capable of carrying on a clicking conversation with their right and a whistle conversation with their left, each completely independently of the other. The shortest and seemingly easiest path to interspecies communication was to teach the dolphins English. So when simple curiosity and a love for dolphins brought Margaret Howe to Lilly's laboratory in early 1964, where, despite having no formal scientific background, she'd volunteered her help however she could be of service, Lilly saw this as a cosmic coincidence orchestrated by ECHO. Dr. Lilly had meanwhile become preoccupied with the recesses of his own consciousness, going longer and longer in sensory deprivation. Referring to his own mind, Lilly wrote, "It seems to contain or be part of some large inner universes beyond my present understanding." Lilly began to believe the dolphins were attempting to telepathically communicate with him.
They programmed the trips, as I found out later, and took me out into the universe in a very expanded way.
They?
The dolphins.
Really?
The 3 dolphins.